President, I move that a bill for an act to provide for a referendum on the question of daylight saving throughout the state, to alter standard time accordingly if the majority of electors indicates approval of daylight saving in the referendum and for related purposes, be introduced and read a first time.
Members, the question is the bill be read a first time. All those of that opinion say aye. To the contrary say no. The ayes have it.
Daylight Saving Bill 2023, first reading.
The Honourable Wilson Tucker.
President, I move that the bill be now read a second time.
You may continue with your contribution, member.
Thank you, President. Members would be aware I no longer have the label of Daylight Saving Party attached to my name in this place. However, my commitment to advance the cause of daylight saving remains just as strong as when I was elected to Parliament. And given that half of West Australians' population support the idea, enough so to trigger 4 referendums, I stand ready to open another debate about daylight saving. In my speech today, I will provide a summary of the bill and the consultation process that I undertook, and I will offer my own personal argument as to why you should vote in favour of this bill. The Daylight Saving Bill 2023 proposes to implement daylight saving time in Western Australia. Daylight saving time is when the clocks move forward by 1 hour during the summer months. This bill achieves that goal by way of enabling a referendum to take place on daylight saving time, requiring that the referendum take place at the next state election, and implementing daylight saving time if and when the majority of electors at the referendum vote in favour of it. Principally, this occurs through clauses 5 and 6. Clause 5 provides that the following question be put to voters at the next state election. Are you in favour of daylight saving being introduced in Western Australia by standard time in the state being advanced 1 hour from the first Sunday in October 2025 until the first Sunday in April 2026, and in similar fashion for each following year? Clause 6 defines summertime, aka daylight saving time, to be 1 hour ahead of standard time between 2 a.m. on the first Sunday in October and 2 a.m. on the first Sunday in April of the following year. This would bring WA in line with the majority of the east coast of Australia in observing daylight saving time during the summer months and avoid the increased time difference. At the last state election, I stood on a platform that I would commission a private member's bill to implement daylight saving time if I was elected to Parliament. In August 2022, I gave notice of that bill and I released its content for public consultation. I did so because daylight saving is one of those issues that affect everyone to varying degrees, and I felt as though it was important to hear what the people had to say. The consultation process occurred over a period of 6 months, from August 2022 to just before Christmas of that year, and the Daylight Saving Party and myself identified 2 key themes among the correspondence that we received. Whilst it is true that we've had 4 referendums on daylight saving, an entire generation of young people have come of voting age since that last one in 2009, and they haven't had a say on the issue. To put things in perspective, a young person who was in year 10 in 2009 is now age 28, and they have never had a say on daylight saving. One correspondent told me, and I quote, "I'm 62 and have lived through all of the daylight saving referendums WA has had. My 2 sons, along with the rest of the millennials, haven't. They haven't had the pleasure of long summer days and being in sync with their families on the East Coast. It is time for another referendum. Don't leave it up to the parliamentarians. They have had their say, ask the young folk, and perhaps we'll all be successful this time around." To many individuals and businesses in Western Australia rely on support services in the eastern states, and they often experience frustration when butting up against a 3-hour difference in time zones. The owner of an automotive parts shop in the Goldfields told me, and I quote, "We get our parts from the near docks in Melbourne. One staff in Kalgoorlie typically go to lunch at around 12 noon or 1 p.m, and by that time they come back, it's close to end of business over there, which means that we can't do a simple thing like pick up the phone and see if they have a headlight a customer needs." I ask members present, who here hasn't had to wake up an extra hour or duck out of a business meeting to make a phone call to a bank or insurance company over East and experience frustration with that 3-hour time gap, the 3-hour gap in time zones? The majority of respondents that I identified through consultation and via polling I conducted through Painted Dog Research want a referendum on daylight saving, as opposed to leaving it to the politicians. Based on this feedback, I commissioned a second and current version of the bill, which provides that a question to be put to voters at the next state election as to whether they support the implementation of daylight saving time. My arguments in favour of daylight saving largely match the messages of support that I've received from members of the public, but with perhaps an added focus on lifestyle benefits. Western Australia is known as a laid-back place to live and work. We have some of the best beaches and natural geography in Australia. The problem is for the majority of us, we simply don't have enough daylight after work on weekdays to enjoy them. Perth, where the vast majority of our state's population is concentrated, is the city with the largest north-south urban sprawl in the entire world. When a person gets home from work, be that in Yanchep or Mandurah, the time could very well be 7 p.m. or later. And given that most shops in those areas close at 9 p.m. and that darkness is only an hour or so away, there simply isn't enough time to undertake activities such as outdoor recreation or socialising. But daylight saving isn't just about fun, it's also about business. Atlassian CEO Mike Cannon-Brookes correctly identified that Western Australia is located in a prime position to capitalise on the emergence of the Indo-Pacific region as a key global growth sector when he said, and I quote, "WA's key industries at the moment are at the forefront in a lot of cases, agriculture, mining, of being disrupted by technology or improved with technology, and that will itself create a whole lot of opportunities for that skills base and talent base." Further, Mike said, and I quote, "WA is a lot closer to markets like India, the Middle East, which areas where it is a few hours of that time shift, which is very, very advantageous." If you think about the global economy, that proximity to Asia and technology is incredibly important, especially in those areas important to WA like mining and agriculture, where there are huge export markets for those goods. That time zone can only be helpful. Given the location-agnostic working habit that the pandemic has helped to create, time zones are playing a more important role in terms of how we communicate and do business. It would be remiss of us as a state to not use our time zone to our advantage to better align ourselves with both our trade partners in the Indo-Pacific region and our own people on the other side of the continent, and daylight saving can help us better balance both of these interests. Just because WA said no 4 times, by a very small margin each time I might add, doesn't mean that we as parliamentarians should shy away from our obligation to revisit issues such as daylight saving. A lot has happened since the last referendum in 2009. WA has changed in terms of its population and its values. The majority of younger West Australians now emerging as voters haven't had their say on the topic of daylight saving, which at its heart represents a lifestyle change, one that would enhance the lives of the majority of West Australians for the better. Pursuant to Standing Order 126(1), I advise that this bill is not a uniform legislation bill. It does not ratify or give effect to an intergovernmental or multilateral agreement to which the government of the state is a party, nor does this bill, by reason of its subject matter, introduce a uniform scheme or uniform laws throughout the Commonwealth. I commend the bill to the House and table explanatory memorandum.
That explanatory memorandum is tabled and debate on the bill stands adjourned.